You're joined once again by criminal defense attorney Lou Shapiro. Lou, nice to have you with us. You know, for nearly 5 hours today, the government presented their case against Combs, alleging he used his business empire as a criminal enterprise. Now, that he also had a pattern of force and shame that he used to control others. What do you make of the state's case?
So it's an interesting one in that it can go both ways. On one hand, the government basically made its case. It does have the evidence to fit into the elements of this whole RICO case. They can prove that there were forced activities. They can prove that drugs were involved. They can prove that there were threats made, intimidations, and people were involved to make it sort of a criminal enterprise. The issue is, does this fit the traditional terminology of what a juror would think when they hear a racketeering case? Is this the mob? Was there something called the Diddy cartel here? And that was not the situation. So the government's sort of trying to retroactively create this whole criminal enterprise when it didn't exist from the get-go, and they're hoping that the jury goes along with it. I don't think it's an easy sell to the jury.
So the prosecution called over 30 witnesses over 6 weeks. The defense made their case, as you know, in less than 30 minutes, calling no witnesses. What do you make of that strategy? Are they throwing in the towel? Do you think the prosecution's case is weak? What's their play there?
So the defense is sending a message to the jury that we aren't even dignifying these accusations, that it's so outrageous for the government to say that our client formed some sort of criminal conspiracy or organization as if he's like the Gambino mob. It's outrageous, ridiculous, and we're not going to give it any credibility. And that's why Diddy didn't testify. They didn't put any witnesses to the contrary. That's what they're banking on here.
Yeah, it could be effective. Looking ahead to tomorrow, the defense will make their closing argument. How would you, as a criminal defense attorney, argue this and talk about strategy here?
I would argue that it's prosecutorial overreach, that the acts that Diddy did were awful, heinous, immoral, but he wasn't running a mob. This is not the Sinaloa cartel. And for the prosecution to try to convert that case into something that is not is unfair, even to someone that did things that Diddy did. Everyone's entitled to due process and fair treatment under the law, and this is prosecutorial overreach. That will be the play by the defense.
So more to the strategy point, during jury instruction deliberations, a number of racketeering theories were dropped against Combs, including attempted arson and kidnapping. Explain why that happened. What's the goal?
So 2 reasons. Number one is the witnesses that testified to some of those charges didn't do as well on the stand as the prosecution would have liked. There wasn't very good forensic evidence to back them up. Number two is the government wants the jurors to focus squarely on the most important charges here, which is the racketeering and sex trafficking parts. So they feel that by eliminating the other charges, they can get Diddy on the most egregious and most important charges to their case.
So prosecutors today, they told jurors to use their quote unquote common sense. And at the end of this ordeal, there were a lot of witnesses that showed Combs was an abusive, bad man. We've seen the video over and over again from the hotel and Cassie. But do you think that the charges as written were proven beyond a reasonable doubt? What's your expectation for tomorrow, or for the, for the jury to come back with?
So the charges probably were technically, and I emphasize the word technically, proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but the spirit of racketeering, the spirit of that statute, which carries a mandatory minimum of 15 years, it was not designed for this type of case necessarily, and that's what the defense needs to convey to the jury. The problem is that if the jury doesn't like Diddy based on all the evidence that they saw, they might not care that this is not the traditional approach to a RICO case, to a racketeering case, and just say, we don't like him, we don't like what he did, the elements are there, and we're going to convict him. So it's really anyone's guess.
Must be beyond a reasonable doubt. Of course, criminal defense attorney Lou Shapiro, thanks for taking the time.
You got it. Have a good night.
Thanks.